Hello, everyone, and welcome to this Google Hangout on Air, the NMC Horizon Report 2013 K-12 edition, Consider, Connect, Collaborate. The NMC Horizon Report 2013 K-12 edition is a product of the New Media Consortium's Horizon Project. That's an ongoing research effort that examines emerging technologies for their potential impact on and use in teaching, learning, and creative inquiry around the globe. Many of you may know the report is a collaboration of the New Media Consortium, the Consortium for School Networking, and the International Society for Technology and Education, and is generously funded by HP. We move out to the far-term horizon is identified in the Horizon Report. Now we're looking at 4 to 5 years before technologies become mainstream practice in K-12 education. There are two technologies that were identified, one of which was 3D printing. I think much of the interest in 3D printing comes from the maker culture, and a makerspace is being implemented as part of the in-school curriculum of the Playmaker School at New Roads. Joe, you're director at this exciting new school, so we'd like to hear from you a little bit about your experiences.
Thanks, Vicki, and it was great listening to Mike Evans' discussion on the analytics, because I think the analytics are going to be a big part in what we're trying to do in being able to assess what's happening in these maker spaces. That's one of the biggest issues. To give you a little bit of background, I want to tell you a little bit about the Playmaker School. It's a partnership between Game Desk, a nonprofit here in Santa Monica, and New Road School. We're currently in our second year. We started out with a 6th grade. It's using an integrated core curriculum. We value student expertise. This is a little bit different. A lot of the subliminal messages in school, if you come into the classroom, the first thing the student is put at a disadvantage because they're either deficient or they need to be fixed. And so the teacher has the information to help them, to fix them, to bring them up to speed and so forth. We look at it from a perspective that the student comes in with expertise already in place. And so our school, we're working on developing a model that is student-centered, student-driven. We look at life, in quotes, as play. A lot of what students learn has to do in creating rules for gaming situations we have. They look at systems and how to integrate with systems. We've developed toolkits to deliver the curriculum. We have sandboxes where the kids aren't given a particular way of completing tasks and so forth. So this leads us right into the whole maker culture and the use of, in the particular talk doing this morning, 3D printing. So we've identified 4 different ways to utilize 3D printing that we feel are unique and contribute way beyond what we currently can do within a standardized classroom. So those 4, the first one, we're able to help students with concepts. So for example, we're currently in the 6th grade doing ancient civilizations, and they're doing Mesopotamia. And so there are these ziggurats that show up in the Mesopotamian culture. The kids have a hard time understanding the scale. And so we have the students creating ziggurats and then putting human-sized figures next to them, so that they can get some kind of an idea of what the scale, and these can be printed out. And so when you print these things out, students are looking at scaling, which transfers over into mathematics as well. We also are able, at that age, they have some difficulty with volumes, and so we can print a little cube kind of thing that's flat that lets them look at the surface area, and then when they fold it up, it creates a volume. Another thing that we're able to do, and this was done actually with a 6th grader, took the data from the mission, NASA space mission to the asteroid belt, took the data and printed from that surface map that the spacecraft did, printed a 3D version of the asteroid Vesta. The top is off so that you can see the honeycomb, the way that the design has to be done so that you're not printing all solid plastic. And so there are a lot of problem-solving things that go into the design of just creating these prints. But this was done by a 6th grade student. And so you see that when you start to look at maker and 3D printing in particular, a lot of the age barriers can be broken down because the software now is available so that students without a lot of knowledge, just knowing about shapes and what they want something to look like, can in fact create things. And as they create these things, they then start to develop more and more of an interest in knowing more and more about the creation process. The second thing that we've identified we call assembly. And so I have several examples of that. This is a desk lamp that a student printed, and so this gets assembled. So the student didn't do the design of this. They went on to a website and downloaded in Thingiverse. They downloaded the shape, but then there's the whole aspect of putting it together. This one was one of my favorites. This is a working steam engine. And so sometimes there's crossover. So between the assembly and the concepts, you can also use this to talk about thermodynamics. You can talk about energy, all kinds of content things as well. But the students then have the availability of creating, printing these things off and then putting them together. And the questions that they often ask is, well, boy, somebody had to design that, and what went into the design of all that. And then once they see that these things are designed and not just bought at stores, they actually then start to think that, well, maybe I can design this as well. Another thing that we do, and this has to do with the design process. I don't know if this shows up okay, but this is the holiday gift that a student has created. This goes on bags of potato chips. And so you can fold up the bag of potato chips, and then you run this across that bag, and it keeps it sealed. And of course, the kid put his name on it, because whenever you print things, they always want to put their names on. One of the things that was exciting about the design of this is that they had to figure out how to create these shapes here. And what they did is they took a cube and rotated it slightly and then turned that cube into a hole, and it created that. These are coins that the kids have created for a Mesopotamia game that they're playing. This is going to be a game about Egypt, and these coins are like badges. They represent resources and things. They had to design what got printed on the coin. And so that's an example of design. And then, kind of wrap up here, the last one kind of called fusion, because it brings a bunch of different things in. We're currently, this is a scan, and so you can use the Kinect, which is the Xbox Kinect, and you can rotate somebody in front of the Kinect and it'll scan the image of whatever you put in front of the Kinect. We have scanned the 6th grade students, and I have a student who is putting these images on chess pieces, and we're currently in the process of creating a chess game that has the student images. This has been a big boon for Minecraft. If people know about Minecraft, we should, because the kids certainly do. And so we're able to take images of the kids, scan those images, print them, and not only can we print them, but we can import them into Minecraft. And then also the worlds and things that the kids are building in Minecraft, they can choose elements that they've created and export it, and then we can print those for display in the classrooms and use in presentations and so forth. So that's kind of an overview of how we're using the 3D printing. It's provided a great deal of opportunities for us. The kids are obviously very, very excited. We're trying to tap into creating a space so that school and home life become one. In the past, this is my 41st year in teaching, and in the past it was often that kids would go home to their lives and then they would come to school for school. What I think we've been able to do by using the Maker and a lot of these activities and things is we've started to create a school environment that integrates with what they're doing outside of school, and that's very exciting.
Thank you, Joe. I think it was helpful to see the models. I really like your comments about bridging home and school. We see the obvious cost savings. You know, I've been reading a lot of articles that question whether 3D printing is just hype and another thing. I don't think so, and my instincts say you don't either. So say a little bit more about how you see this bridge between home and school, and what you think the promise outside of cost savings is for 3D printing and how it's going to impact the teaching learning process.
Well, I think the first thing that I would note is that this definitely changes the role of the teacher. And so to go back to my first point about how the student comes into the classroom and into school with expertise. I did a little poll and I went around and asked teachers how many knew about Minecraft, and not many know about Minecraft, which is already a cultural divide. And so the students are all, for the most part, the ones that I talk to, let's just say that in our elementary school, K through 5, we probably have a good 60% of the kids playing Minecraft, and the rest of them certainly know what it is and what's going on. So there's a disjointness between what the kids are doing at home and what's happening at school. And I think that with the 3D printer and with the integration of some of these things into the tools and the things that the kids are doing, whether it's Minecraft or some of these other things, it automatically builds in an interest, and so that we can use this to create motivation. And if we just design it correctly, that's like, for instance, I have elementary school kids building ziggurats for our 6th grade program. We've just met with a toy company, and we have some kids that are working on designing different toys. And these kinds of things. And so all of a sudden you're starting to create value. If we can move away from kids being consumers and start getting them to be creators, where they're creating value, where they're creating meaning, I think that's a win situation for us in creativity and engineering, in whatever you want to label it.
One more quick question for you and a thought. I know, so you, like I, have been at this for over 40 years, and I used to think long before technology, if I could look at the wadded up pieces of paper in the trash and kind of see the thinking that kids had before the final product, there'd be value. So as you look at the 3D printing, and kids really can safely and cost effectively fail from time to time in the learning process, what do you have to say about that? Are you seeing things different that you think are, part of what's exciting you about this for teaching and learning?
You broke up on most of that.
Okay, I'm asking more, Joe, about what do you see as the value of failure, if we can put it in that phrase? I hear discussion around this. What are the learning aspects? Is this part of what excites you about this?
Very, very much so. You hit on one of my most. It's one of my buttons, and that is the idea that students have to be allowed to explore, have to be allowed to find what works and what doesn't work. I call it intuition. And so you can pretty much tell a kid what they're supposed to know, what he or she is supposed to know, and they will tell you that back when you ask them that question. But they have no intuition around it. The intuition is always developed through practice and through experience. And so what we try to do in all of these situations, the makerspace in particular, is you allow the kids to explore. We did a thing with Makey Makey. I don't know if you're familiar with that, but it'll come on your radar soon if it hasn't already. And the kids were talking about conductors, and they tried all sorts of things until they came up with what was a good conductor and what was a bad conductor. And whenever you can get the kids developing those intuitions and the rules, if they can create those rules on their own and refine those rules and develop those rules, we come up way with a much better learner, a lifelong learner at that.
COSN hopes you'll use these free resources, both the Horizon Report and the toolkit that COSN developed to accompany it, to help you with those local conversations.